Am I being too grim? No, I mean, I think we have to paint the picture about what it is, and I can see amongst the audience you could recognise that, but I think it does actually need, it needs civil society to come together, number one. Because too often civil society is defined just as NGOs. It is not defined as NGOs, lawyers, journalists, academics, all of those outside of the system. And we don't come together enough. And we have to analyse, and we have to work together, and we have to join in with protests. And I mean, when you look at the way they've tackled protests, and I know a study has gone on about what's happened in Latin America, United States, and in Asia, and in Africa. And a recent survey amongst, I can't reveal the source of it, what they were saying to me was that shut up top of this was the way they were treating protests. People protesting either out of local conditions or out of reaction to the economic crisis, reaction to the changes. And it wasn't just, it's what they're doing to tackle protests, which is now uniform across the EU. Not absolutely. But I mean, the use of undercover police officers infiltrating protest groups, from environmental groups to people who wanted just to stop a road crossing in a town, all represent a threat. The use of kettling, that is containing people and not letting them out, punishing them on the streets, what we call dispensing justice on the streets. Or in other cases, like they did in Copenhagen in 2010 at the climate conference, they arrested some 5,000 people and got them all kneeling down, not being able to move, and handcuffed behind their back for the duration of the protest. And you've got ever since, well, we all remember what happened in Gothenburg and what happened in Genoa in 2001, the increased use of paramilitary policing. So they're not daft, that state. That state even knew then they had to counter something. And this economic crisis has enhanced that. And we have to understand that. And there's the beginnings of some of the coming together of groups to try and understand, have a common position over it, to have a reaction to how protest, the right of freedom of expression, the right of assembly, is being policed. In a sense, part of the answer to the question is we've got to find one or two issues which we unite civil society on and try and be effective. The Anne's trying to say something.
Sorry.
I just wondered if you could expand a bit, perhaps you cut it out in the bit you cut out about the actors who, we know what we don't know about the actors who are European, but there are significant actors in justice and home affairs policy making. I'm thinking of the United States, but other international
Fora, yeah.
who are influencing the terms of the debates and who can withhold access to their documents. So that's yet another barrier to finding out what's been decided and why and who's influencing the discussion.
Yeah, I'm sure we don't know all of it. I mean, the two most obvious groups, or the three most interesting arenas that we do know something about are, one, the EU-US meetings on justice and home affairs, which is meetings are now about 30 or 40 meetings a year, sometimes directly in Brussels or in Washington, often by video, where when you ask for a council document on those meetings, what you will get is what's called partial access. It means you will get a copy of the minutes outcomes of those meetings, but all the response of the United States are deleted from it. So all you will get is the Commission position, but not the United States position. We have made it a point to publish those documents in full, because we think people have a right to know what the USA is demanding, and what when a study of those documents, and we've got most of them, shows it's a one-way channel of requests. That nearly all requests on the EU from the United States to give information, to be part of something, whatever. The one request which the EU has made to the United States is, can you please change your data protection law, your privacy law, which only applies, 1974, which only applies to US citizens, can you actually apply that to EU citizens? And they say no. Then the other area which is obviously interesting is the G8 Justice and Home Affairs Ministers, the Roma-Lyon group. That's where the big things take place. That is the high-level G8 Justice and Home Affairs Ministers meet, the Roma-Lyon group meets. They set a lot of the policies coming through, we have seen coming through when we've got hold of those minutes that coming through. One example, and the third group is, of course, G6. Now, you've probably never heard of G6. G6 created 5 years ago. Now, I've got to get the countries right. It's UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and Poland. Because Poland just happened to hold the presidency at the time, or they're about to get it, so they had to bring Poland in for no apparent reason. However, these are the interior ministers meeting every 6 months, to be a bit like a Schengen group, pushing certain policies within the EU. And at first, we managed to get out, with the help of some national parliaments, a statement about what was discussed. Then when the UK held the presidency of it, they decided they weren't even going to put out a press release. So we don't know the agendas, we don't know the papers, we don't know the outcomes. But we did get some outcomes. We did discover something rather interesting about 2 years ago. It came out in Germany. It came out there that because they've got a strong privacy, data protection law in there, federal law, that they had to legitimise something, which was the use of what was called remote access. That means that any state computer could look at your computer without you knowing it, without getting any permission from anybody. And because they had to legitimate it in Germany, it came out this was what they were doing. But it was only legal in Germany for terrorism, not for anything else. It then turned out, when we got some minutes from the G6 and some other bits from the EU, that they were all doing it. The only problem they got with doing it was that the law lags a bit behind the practice. In other words, they were doing it, but they had no powers, legal powers to do it. But that didn't stop them doing it. But who also always attends these G6 meetings? The United States. And time again, I have to say this, that there are meetings of the Eurojust, the police training, immigration, and they hold conferences, and it's nearly always 27. And then remember, we've got other countries, because they come in via the Schengen arrangement, which is Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, which makes 31. But nearly always, the United States and Israel is there too. Now, I'm not necessarily against them being there, but why are they there? Why are they everywhere? Are they an influence? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the United States is the 28th member of the European Union, because it has more influence than some of the member states do.
Okay, I know there was one more comment there. I'm afraid we're running out of time. We really need to stop for the coffee break. There will be chance to continue the discussion in the round table after the break that Tony will also be participating in.